So I'm going to read something from my notes, something that I had a revelation of the other day. And so I'm going to be looking down, reading. Sorry, it's a mess. Okay, so when we read in the scriptures, especially in the Psalms and Proverbs, and it talks about the type of people, whether they're righteous or wicked, okay, and it identifies the characters of the righteous or the wicked person, and the details in identifying the fruit of the Spirit, whether good or bad, right? So, for example, let me turn the screen around. So, excuse my scribbles, terrible handwriting, but it says here, a fool does not delight in understanding, but in uncovering his own heart. So, the spirit of foolishness, right, identifies the spirit through the fruit, and the character of the fruit of that spirit is uncovering his own heart. That's Proverbs 18:2. So Proverbs 17:27. He who has knowledge, which is a spirit, right, spares his words. That's the fruit. And a man of understanding is cool of spirit. So those are two different fruits and two different characteristics of those fruits that we can identify. Okay. So I'm going to continue reading. We can use this to our advantage in several ways for ourselves if we struggle with running our mouth. We know this and we really want to stop, but we are really having a hard time in doing so. So think about this in any, sorry for the distractions. Okay, I had to wait for that car alarm to go off. So when we are trying to identify something, or we're trying to deal with something, like overcome a flaw, or a spirit that we know that is not of the Most High, like, running our mouth or whatever, right? We can look at the scriptures. So here, let me show you again. So back to my scribbles. If you could read it, good for you. If not, I'll read it to you. I'm sorry. So Ecclesiastes 5:3, it says, "For a dream comes through the greatness of the task, and a fool's voice is known by his many words." Okay, so again, we're identifying the spirit through the fruit. Okay, and Proverbs 17:28, even a fool, which is a spirit, keeping silent is regarded as wise. That's the fruit. As understanding when he closes his lips. Okay, so wisdom and understanding are identified as someone has few words, right? So when we can identify the negative fruits versus the fruits of the Most High, we can apply that logically. Like, okay, you know what? I'm just, Most High, please help me to close my mouth, to know when to keep my mouth shut, right? And when to speak, when not to speak. Those are things that we can ask for to help us manifest the fruits of the Most High. Okay. Sorry about this. You know what? It is what it is. Okay. So in Ephesians 6:12, it says, "Because we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against authorities, against the world rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual wickedness in the Shamayim, in the heavens." Okay, I'm going to keep reading. Reading my notes here, because I get lots of words when I'm on these videos. I have a really hard time speaking. So, okay. So, anyways, I was reading here. In my notes, it says we can utilize this in identifying spirits in others. However, we must humble ourselves. I'm going to keep reading. We must humble ourselves and be honest with ourselves to ask and consider whether or not we struggle with any wicked spirits, or if we truly hold the fruits of the Spirit of the Most High. The hard truth is that while we might love the Most High to the best of our abilities, we may and most likely have spirits within us that we need deliverance from. You know, we gotta humble ourselves. We cannot seek our own honor and think ourselves highly as we ought. We can't exclude ourselves from the possibility that we need deliverance, right? So Romans, I'm going to read here. Romans 12:3. For I say, through the favor which has been given to me, to everyone who is among you, not to think more highly than he should think, but to think soberly, as Elohim has given to each measure of belief. Okay, and so I'm going to keep reading my notes. Whether it be outside influence or internal spirits that have burrowed within you, or maybe through your bloodline, right? Generational curses or something. It does not matter. We must humble ourselves. Do not exclude yourself from the idea that you may need deliverance. Okay, I'm going to read some verses here. Okay, Proverbs 16, verse 18. Before destruction, pride, and before a fall, a haughty spirit. So Proverbs 25, verse 27. It is not good to eat much honey. Is it esteem to seek one's own esteem? And that word here is often translated to honor. Is it honor to seek one's own honor? So in Proverbs 11, verse 2, pride comes, then comes shame, but with the humble is wisdom. And I'm just using this as an example. There's a lot of things that we all need to work through, right? And I'm speaking on this because, there's so much distractions going on. There's a lot going on in this world, in the heavens, in the spirit world, and it can be very, very overwhelming, right? And very distracting and very scary. And we can, especially if we're in the walk with the Most High, we're, what we call woke. A lot of people use that word not really knowing what it means, but we have to remember the most important thing is getting our spirit right with the Most High and keeping our spirit right with the Most High. I am in John chapter 9. I'm going to read this verse here and then a verse down here. And we know that Elohim does not hear sinners, but if anyone reveres Elohim and does his desire, he hears him. I'm going to go down to verse 39. Okay. And Yeshua said, for judgment I have come into this world, that those not seeing might see, and those seeing might become blind. And those of the Pharisees who were with him heard these words, and said to him, are we blind too? Yeshua said to them, if you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you say, we see, therefore your sin remains. And all this to say is that we have to make sure that we don't become Pharisees, where we are wise in our own eyes and think that we are here to save people with our words and stuff. We got to humble ourselves and make sure that we are in alignment in the spirit, because pride is very sneaky. It will cause blindness. It will make you blind, and it will cause you not even hear the Most High. And you won't even know until the end, till it's too late. Shalom.